Hi there, this is Kiran Pati from Graphy. Today we are going to learn uh, three important methods of processing an image. Today I'm going to show you how to process a landscape image. Okay, this is the final output. Let me show you how it looks when before processing the image. Okay, so this is how it was, and this is how it has been processed. And basically I'm going to show you three methods. One is how to control the haze in your picture. Second, how to use Blendif. And third, how to control levels in your image. Plus I'll also show you what is the best way to sharpen an image. Okay, so let me open this image in Photoshop. So since I've shot in raw format, so I'm going to get this bridge before getting into the main screen of Photoshop. So in this case, what I have to do is first initially I'll go and remove the chromatic aberrations, enable profile correction. So this is important to all the images whenever you work. And the next thing what you can see next to lens correction is FX. So basically here I corrected dehaze. Dehaze is nothing but the moisture content in the air while you shoot. So for an example, here in this picture you can see there is a lot of mist or fog in this image. So there are chances that there can be high amount of mist in front of the lens, and that is actually removing the clarity in your image. So how to dehaze it, and let me show you. See, in this entire image the mist itself is playing a very important role. So I shouldn't dehaze such that all my entire mist is gone. So I should have a controlled corrections of this mist such that only the front part of it. For an example, in this case what I don't want is I don't want the haze in this region. Okay, so what I do is I go to FX, I go to dehaze, and I slightly move this slider to dehaze the image. And let me show you the difference, how exactly it happens. So if I completely remove it, or if I have to add extra dehaze or extra mist in my picture. So this is how it was at 0. So this is how I have captured it. So I want to remove the haze over here. So what I do is I slightly move the slider towards right. So if you want to see how it was before and how it has changed, you can do the comparison. So this is before I move the dehaze slider. This is after I move the dehaze slider. So once this is done, and guys, there is one thing you need to note down is this dehaze option is available only in Photoshop CC. Okay, if at all if you are using the lower version like the Photoshop 3 or 4, you might not see this dehaze option in your Photoshop this thing. So if that option is not there, I'm also going to show you how you can control it while in the main screen of the Photoshop itself. So let me do the rest of the small corrections. Uh, I'm so sorry. I just by mistake I just clicked on escape. Let me open it. Okay, so let me do this again. Remove chromatic aberrations, enable profile corrections. Then I'll go to FX, and I'm going to remove the haze from this region. So slightly I'm going to move this towards right. Then I'll go back to my main this thing. Then here if I want I can increase the temperature. Remember this plays a very important role, your temperature, this thing, especially this is not at all a problem if you have shot your image in raw format, but just in case if you have shot your image in the JPG, you need to get this right, the white balance. Okay, basically white balance is measured in Kelvin or can also be called as temperature. So let me slightly increase my temperature so that I can all my greens and yellows, it just pops up a bit. Okay, so in this case what I do is I just want to bring in the shadows, the images here. For an example, in this case here, lot of details was lost. This is how it was shot, especially because of the shadows. So I'll slightly, to get back those details, I'm increasing the shadows. Okay, now I'm going to slightly decrease my highlights. I don't want to see too shots. Okay, you can just tweak in with these things according to your requirement. Just going to increase contrast a bit, decrease blacks a bit so that my green color it pops up. Okay, so once I do this, I can also increase my vibrance. I would suggest anything between 20 to 25 is good for vibrance, and don't touch saturation here. So increase, I can also increase clarity here so that my image really pops up pretty well. So once this is done, I can also go here where my detail sharpening is there. I just bring down this completely because I have a different method of, I'm going to show you how to sharpen the image in a proper way. So let me open this image in my Photoshop main screen now. So my initial touch up with this phone, what I can say is the corrections, I've done it here. So let me open this in my Photoshop main screen. So this is my Photoshop screen, and as you guys know, there are different layers which you can create here, and I will always suggest you guys to create different layers to work on different individual things. For an example, if I have to create a copy of this layer, what I do is I press Command and J in for iMac, Control J for Windows users. Okay, so now I have my layer one. So now what I can do is I can just type what I am working on. So in this case, let me show you how to work on levels. So I'll just come here. So once this thing is created, I double click on this word so that I can just type levels, and here I'm noting it down because even I can clearly know on which layer, on what this thing I have worked on. So levels, so click on the levels layer, press Command L or Control L, Command L for iMac, Control L for Windows. Now here you can see an histogram. So in this case what it shows is this particular slider, it shows the highlights. Okay, so whatever you make changes here, the entire, for in your entire image the highlights changes. So in this button, this slider is used to bring changes for the shadows region. Okay, so this slider is used for midtone. Now if I'm changing this slider, if I'm moving this slider, as I told you, it will work on the software will work on the highlights. But what is happening is my the entire image is getting changed. It is the software is working on my shadows region as well. It is working on my midtones and it is working on my highlights also, which I don't want to have. Which I don't want it. So how I want it is. One second, hold on. So what I want is, I want to work on a control bit. For an example, if I move this slider, which is for highlights, I want the effect to be changed only in the highlights region. So in this case, what you need to do is, you need to hold Alt button, and then when you press the slider, the entire image turns black. Now if you move the slider towards left hand side, okay, you can move this till you see some kind of a color on your image. So for an example, now the colors are popping out from your screen. Now what the Photoshop is trying to tell you is, wherever these colors are popping up, the software is trying to tell you those regions will get overexposed. So you need to stop somewhere in between. As soon as you see some kind of a color pop up on the screen, you just stop it there. Fine. Now what you can also do is, you can also play with your shadows. Again, you need to hold the Alt button and move. Now you need to be really careful in this particular picture, because this particular region, it is already dark. Okay, if I hold Alt key and if I move the slider, then these regions becomes even more darker, as you can see now. So which I don't want to do. So what I do is, I'm not going to touch the shadows slider here. I'll just try with my midtones. While changing midtones, you don't have to hold the Alt key. Okay. Okay, so this is fine with me. I press OK. Now this is how you actually use levels. Okay. So remember, in levels, I can work with my shadows region. I can work with my highlights region. I can also work with my midtones. But to control highlights and shadows, it's always good to hold Alt button and move the slider, so that if I hold the highlights slider and holding the Alt key, so whatever the changes I'm bringing only to the highlights region. Okay, if I hold Alt button, if I move the shadow slider, then I'm making changes only in the shadow region. So that you need to know. So now you can see how my earlier picture was. So this is how it was, and after working on the levels, this is how it has become. Now in this case, now what I want to do is, so I have worked on levels. Now I want to make this mist even to uh, uh, I want this mist to appeal even more. Okay, I want it to be even more brighter. So what I do is, I use something called as a Blendif technique in this case. So just follow this method, how to work on Blendif, and I keep explaining as I work on this layer. Okay, so to my levels, what I also do is, I go to background, create one more layer by pressing Command J or Control J in your Windows. Now I'll just click on this layer, go to brush tool here. So the shortcut for brush tool is pressing B, and your color palette should be white when you work on the higher highlights, and it should be black when you work on the shadows. So since I want to work on the highlights now, I can choose white. So okay. So what I do is, I'll just I'm just going to paint on this image. Okay, using my brush tool, I've selected white color. and I'm painting on my image. Now you don't have to really worry about how it is looking now, because using Blendif technology I'm going to correct this. Okay, so what I'm trying to show you is, so wherever I have painted, I want my picture to be highlighted better there. Okay, so double click on this layer to go to Blendif. Now you can see underlying layer or this layer. So go to underlying area, layer, and you have these sliders which you can move. Okay. Let me show you how you can work on this. Now can you see the difference? So what it is doing is, when you move this slider, whatever is in the highlights region, that will be kept safe. If you move this slider, whatever is in the shadow region, that will be kept safe. Now in this case, what I want is, I want a better mist to be seen in this particular region wherever I have painted. So what I do is, I just move this highlight slider, okay, till here. Now what you can also do is, for the smooth transition, so for an example, if I move this completely here, you can see these regions where there is not, the transition of is not very smooth. So to get this transition very smooth, what you can also do is, you can just hold the Alt key to break this slider into two. Okay. Now can you see how the software is applying very smoothly? Okay. So now let me change this blending mode to soft light. Okay. I'm sorry. Now you see this, how I've using Blendif technology, how these regions have been highlighted even better. So what I can do is, I can just drag this layer on top. Okay. So this is how it was after my levels corrections, after my Blendif correction. Okay, blend here, in this case the Blendif has been applied only to the highlight region where I wanted to show more mist. So this is how it was, and now there has been more drama which has been created. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to create one more layer. Now this time I'm going to apply this, just drag this on top. Now I'm going to use Blendif technology only to my shadow region. So in this case, if I have to apply Blendif only to the shadow region, the brush tool what I select, and the color should be black. Now it was, earlier it was white and black, now just change it by pressing X. Okay, you are going to change it, or you can also do this toggle here. Okay, Now wherever there is black, I'm just going to paint it black and use Blendif technology to create more depth in my image. So see this? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click on this to open blending options. Now last time, remember, we had worked on the shadow region to get the highlights. Now I am going to work on this particular region so that anything in my shadows will be kept safe. You can just try multiple blending options, whichever suits. You can also bring down the opacity. Okay. Now I'll just click. Okay. Now earlier to this is how it was. After blending options has been applied even on the shadow region, you can see how my image is popping up. If you think it is become too dark, you can reduce the opacity even further. Now you see the difference, how my image is popping. Now what we have done initially, my first thing what I worked on was levels. In levels, what did I do? I pressed Command L and worked on my highlights, shadows and my midtones. To work on highlights only, to be very specific, only to the highlights region, I hold Alt key and move the slider. To be very specific, only in the shadow region, I hold Alt key and move this shadow slider. And for midtones, I don't have to hold Alt key, I can just arrange this. Now you can go back here, this is my earliest this thing, and you can make changes if at all if you want. Now I don't want to make any changes to that, so I just leave it there. So after that, what did I do? I went to background, I created a copy of the background, which is this layer, and to this layer I wanted to bring up this mist to pop up. Okay, so what did I do? I went to created this layer and I went to the brush tool, I chose white color, I painted. So once I painted, I double clicked on this layer to go to my Blendif options, blending options, and I started moving my shadow slider. You can see if at all if I want to bring in any changes, I can still do it. But I'm pretty happy with my previous changes. So I can still do it, so I don't want now. Okay, so by doing that, I have given more importance to the highlights region. That's why my mist is looking brighter here than in my previous case. You see this? This is how it was. And this is how we have brought up the mist in the image. Now once I'm done with this, what did I do? I worked on my shadows region by creating one more copy from my background layer, that is my background copy 2. In this case again I went to Blendif, before going to Blendif, what did I do? I went to brush tool, I chose black color, I just painted wherever there were shadows and I double clicked on this layer and I moved my highlights slider so that there is a proper blending of my highlights and shadow region. Okay, clicked OK, and now this is my output after doing levels and blending. Now from here what I wanted to show you is how to sharpen the image in a right way. Okay, so let me select this layer, hold shift, select, click on the under layer and command E to merge it. Okay, so this is how it was. Now I have merged everything in this layer. Now what I want to do is I can actually I want to merge these two also. Let me merge it. Let me create a new layer. In this layer what I'm going to do is I'm going to sharpen the image. Go to filter, go to other and go to high pass filter. Okay, once you select high pass filter, make sure the radius is very low in this case. I'll tell you why we need to do that. Okay, generally if you go through other tutorials, people might increase it to 4 or 5 depending on the requirement, but I would suggest always start with the low version. I would suggest around 2 is fine. Click OK. Okay, now there are, you can see, if at all if you look closely, okay, here and all there is some, you can see some unwanted colors in it. So to remove these unwanted colors, what you should do is hold shift command and press U. So for Windows it is shift command and shift control and U to remove these unnecessary colors. Okay, now I have sharpened my image using high pass filter. So from normal mode, change the blending mode to soft light. Okay, so you see the difference now. This is how it was. It has become more sharp. Okay. If you think the sharpening is too much, what you can also do is you can reduce the opacity. Fine. So with this, what we have learned is, today we have learned levels, how to work on Haze, how to work on Blendif, and how to sharpen the image using high pass. Okay, so I believe this tutorial has been helpful. So let me show you how we started, from where we started, and our output. So this is how my image was shot, and this is how my output is. Okay. So now exporting this image for any kind of an website, this thing, what you need to do is, if at all if you want to share the image on YouTube or for Facebook or 500px, for any kind of an web viewing, you need to always save your image for web. Go to export, save for web. just change the height and the width of the image. I would suggest 1800 will be more than sufficient for any kind of an web viewing. So once you do it, also just save the image. You can select wherever you want to. For example, in this case, we select this image on desktop and which was missed. There is already an image which has been saved by that name. Let me just change the name to fog. Close the image, go back to your desktop to see your the same image. This is your final output. So let me show the from where we started, and let me show you the output. This is how we started. And this is how we have finished our processing. Thank you so much. I hope this tutorial has been helpful for you guys. Let me know if you have any questions. Any kind of queries also will be answered. Just comment below the in the comment section. Write your questions so that we can get back with answers. Thank you so much. We hope we'll come up with few more processing techniques so that it can be really helpful for you guys. Have a wonderful day. Bye bye.